I'm standing here in Volkihar Castle wondering, are there any weird details hidden around? Do the things scattered all over actually make sense? And what about the other minor faction hideouts? That's exactly what we're doing today. We're visiting every minor joinable faction headquarters to look for cool little details. Do these details tell us anything interesting? Maybe even some wild theories? We'll go room by room so we don't miss a thing. Additionally, we'll talk about the living conditions and the overall vibe of each place. So, let's get started. Let's start with Volkihar Castle, the home of the vampire clan. I really like how it's tucked away, far from civilization, sitting on a small island in the Ghost Sea. The place feels extremely isolated, and the only way to get there is by taking a small boat from the coast. It's perfectly placed too, on the western edge where the sun disappears, which is such a neat detail. Vampires prefer the night, so I can imagine them eagerly waiting for sunset every day. Great view of the night sky too. The castle itself is massive, and I love how it has those small windows. Makes sense, right? Vampires wouldn't want too much daylight sneaking in. Once you step inside, you immediately notice how dark it is. The first hallway is probably the brightest space in the whole place, thanks to those few windows, but take a few more steps and you end up in this huge dining area lit entirely by candlelight. No sunlight, just warm flickering flames. Perfectly fits the vampire vibe. But honestly, I don't think lighting is the first thing you notice. Just look around. Bloody hell, and I mean that literally. The tables are piled with food, and the variety is wild. If you're into crispy snacks, they've got you covered. Prefer something chewy and protein-rich? That's here too. Barrels are scattered everywhere for a cold drink, and of course there's always the option of a hot beverage straight from the vein. Oh, and next to each table there is a bowl of bones, clearly for their adorable doggies. Such a fun little detail. The whole place has this messy, chaotic feel to it. Bloodstains, bones, nightshade flowers as decoration, which totally fits, since nightshades are often associated with graveyards. So I'd say this place meets the criteria for where nightshades would naturally grow. This castle is basically one giant tomb. Just off to the side there's a more private nook with a table and some party supplies. Maybe it's a spot for stronger drinks, or who knows, maybe it's a karaoke corner. There is a loot there, and the skooma might just be liquid courage. Another thing that stands out is the chandeliers. 2 rows of candles, way fancier than the usual 1 row setup. Love that. If you head right from the main hall, you'll find a huge area dedicated to combat training. It's actually well organized, archery targets on one side, sword training on the other. There is also a forge and workbench for crafting and upgrading weapons and armor. Strangely, there are 2 coffins in this area too. I don't know how anyone sleeps there. It must be so noisy with everyone practicing and pounding on the anvil, like as if sleeping in a coffin wasn't uncomfortable enough. Also spotted a vase with death bells. Why am I not surprised the flowers with a name like that are growing here? Love those small details. On the same side of the castle, there's a hallway with many barrels that leads to a surprisingly big kitchen. And honestly, that's kind of a shock. Most major factions in Skyrim don't have a separate, dedicated kitchen like this. The Dark Brotherhood has a nice corner for cooking, but it's mixed in with their dining and sleeping areas. Here though, it's a proper kitchen. Lots of tables, food prep areas, and what's interesting, no vegetables inside. Just spices and herbs like garlic, dried elf ears, and dried frost miriam. Apparently, Skyrim's vampires aren't garlic phobic. I'd even say they like it, probably use it to spice up the meat. And the lack of veggies, cakes, and all the usual stuff you see in most Skyrim kitchens totally fits the vibe. It's not like vampires would want to eat that anyway. Even the meat racks instead of animals just have bones. There's one lonely pheasant which feels kind of out of place. Maybe that one's for the doggies? Something that really caught my eye was the broom. The floor definitely doesn't look like it's been cleaned lately. And let's be real, they probably need a mop more than a broom anyway. Also, have you seen the fireplace in there? It's really bad. No proper space for a fire, no ventilation. And there are no cooking pots either, which I actually love, because of course vampires would prefer raw food. The tables in the main hall made that pretty clear already. So the fire here seems more for drying herbs or just adding some ambient light. There are also giant barrels for storing even more blood, because obviously the smaller ones scattered around weren't enough. Vampires gotta eat, and when you think about it, blood probably isn't that filling. It's a liquid after all, so they must need a lot of it. And yep, there's another coffin in the kitchen. Why? Sleeping in a room full of food smells sounds pretty awful. There's also a little side room, just shelves and not much else, but it feels like a realistic touch. In real life, kitchens often have a pantry or storage room. In Skyrim, not so much. So this tiny space is a nice detail. And yeah, it's definitely just storage, because the actual pantry is somewhere else, connected to the kitchen, and it's pretty big. You have to go downstairs to reach it, and it's at the lowest level of the castle. Smart move, cool cool, dark, perfect for storing food. Honestly, whoever designed this castle clearly wanted it to feel brutal and grim. And well, mission accomplished. From the main hall, if you go left instead, you'll enter a room clearly meant for experiments. The central tables make that obvious right away. There are even two large stone slabs positioned to elevate heads, which is a nice creepy touch. You've got both an alchemy and enchanting table here, along with plenty of bookshelves, so it really feels like a proper research space. You can read, brew potions, enchant stuff, love the whole vibe. From there, you can access the shared sleeping quarters. Gotta say, coffins are definitely space savers. It'd be hard to squeeze so many beds in here. The space is very simple. No fancy beds, no nightstands, just a few coffins and shelves for clothes. But hey, there's a wash basin in the room, which is impressive. Most major factions only have those in a few private bedrooms. Vampires do care about hygiene apparently. And of course, there is the chamber where Harkon teaches you how to use your vampire lord powers if you choose to accept his gift. The altar looks really ominous, great design. But aside from that, nothing else in the room really stands out. One last space inside the castle, the interrogation room. This place is downright creepy. There is a cage, a questioning table, all kinds of tools, and then right next to it a cozy setup with chairs and a fireplace, like you're supposed to just relax and enjoy the view. Maybe even sip on a drink while you're at it. I like that vampires in Skyrim, especially the ones in this castle, are shown as real bloodthirsty monsters. It just makes sense. These aren't the tragic, misunderstood vampires from romance stories. Or maybe they are? There is a display case with human hearts in it. Maybe that's just their version of love, who knows? There is a bedroom connected to this room too. It's clearly the leader's quarters, big and located at the highest point in the castle. Oddly enough, no wash basin here. I'm surprised since even the shared room has one. And that's pretty much the whole castle. Around the back, there is access to the Volkihar undercroft. It's a dark, creepy tunnel system that eventually leads to the courtyard. I really like that part. It has this mysterious atmosphere and the moon dial puzzle is such a cool touch. Gives me serious Resident Evil vibes. Sylvianet opens up a secret passage, but I won't go into details since it's not a space where vampires normally hang out and I wanted to focus on the places they actually live. And let's be honest, I've already rambled about this castle long enough. But seriously, there is just so much to explore here. Every room has the little details that make it feel lived in. Or undead in. It's dark, messy, and full of personality. For members of the faction, it's probably a great place. Sleeping arrangements, plenty of blood, space to train or research. Unless, of course, you end up as the food. Personally, I'd prefer to live somewhere a bit more welcoming and safe. Next, let's check out the Fort Dawnguard, the home of the vampire hunters. I totally love where this place is located. It's way on the opposite side of the map, like someone really wanted to make it clear they're against the vampire clan. And the east side placement is such a nice touch. The sun rises here, and the faction is literally called Dawnguard. What also stands out is the surrounding area and how you even get there. There is this little hidden hole in the mountains near Riften. It leads to the beautiful Dayspring Canyon, and wow, I love how bright and sunny it is. It has that yellow forest vibe like around Riften, but it's all surrounded by snowy mountains. There is even a waterfall with ice, and it just looks so peaceful. Plus, there is a spot to fish. How wholesome is that? So what about the fort itself? It's huge and tucked right into the mountain. Definitely a solid stronghold. It doesn't have a fancy look or any ornate carvings, but I think that's the point. It's meant to be a safe place, no flashy designs or decorations. And honestly, that simplicity works really well with the colorful, lively surroundings. The fort doesn't take away from the natural beauty of the area. If it were some flashy building with bright colors and decorations, it would kind of ruin the vibe. Let's head inside. As soon as we walk in, there is this big rounded space and it's totally empty. But look up, there is no roof. And right at the top, there is this mechanism that concentrates sunlight to test if the person standing below is a vampire. That's such a cool idea. And it's placed right at the entrance before you can even go anywhere else in the fort. If you're a vampire, the steel gates will close and people from above can shoot you with crossbows. It's so well designed. I just wish you could see the mechanism from the outside too. Also, from a defensive point of view, it's kind of a security issue. This big open area makes the fort vulnerable to air attacks. The temperature here also must be pretty low. Going left from the main hall, you'll find a huge storage room. Nothing too unusual here, just barrels, crates, and a table with a map. A classic spot for planning strategies, of course. From there, you can head into a large dining area that doubles as a kitchen. Unlike Castle Volkihar, here you'll actually find regular stuff: pots, alcohol, animal meat, some veggies, and fruits. The chandeliers are the same ones used in the main vampire hall. After that, there's a space that's actually a cave, which I love. From the outside, you can tell the fort is built into the mountain, and the inside reflects that perfectly. This area is used for training and crafting. It has a cool rugged vibe, but it's missing a few essentials like a forge or enchanting table. But the fort does get upgraded as you progress through quests. What you're seeing here is the early version. You can also find an armored troll enclosure here, but right now it's just empty. From the main hall, you can go into a big room with a massive fireplace. I'm a little surprised there is no opening above the fire, especially since the fireplace is so detailed. The whole room feels a bit odd. It kind of looks like it was meant to be a dining area or kitchen, but instead there are just a few super low quality beds, if we can even call them beds. In Dragon's Reach you find those in the prison. So yeah, comfort is definitely not a strong point here. At least it's probably warm in this room thanks to the fireplace. The last area downstairs is another cave with huskies. How cute are they? Seriously, how am I supposed to play as a vampire when these adorable dogs are here? I know Castle Volkihar technically has dogs too, but I still prefer these ones. There's also a sword training spot here which feels a bit odd. Why isn't it in the other training area with the archery and crafting stuff? Oh, and here we can also find the entrance to a cave with a fishing spot. Let's go upstairs. There are two bedrooms. The first one honestly feels more like a storage room with the same saddle little bed we saw downstairs. The second bedroom is a bit better, finally a real bed. And compared to the others, it must feel amazing. It's obvious the room belongs to the leader. What's weird though is that it connects directly to an interrogation space. But you know what they say, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. This place is definitely harsh. Someone lying here has to look at all those skulls and tools. But judging by the ale bottles, some people might actually be having fun here. I guess Dawnguard members aren't so different from vampires, at least in that regard. Besides all that, Fort Dawnguard also has 3 towers that let you go outside. One strange detail is that you'll find a few bedrolls up on the roof. I mean, seriously? Who wants to sleep on the roof? Especially since there is snow and ice around, so it must be super cold. If there were at least a fire nearby, maybe it'd be fine. But without it, hypothermia is basically guaranteed. Overall, I think Fort Dawnguard is a really cool place. The vibe fits the faction really well. But as a place to actually live, maybe not the best. You've got freezing cold wind coming into the main hall, no wash basin, and let's be honest, those beds are rough. But still, it's got charm in its own way. And how could I say no to those huskies? The doggies actually made me realize there's a spot nearby where you could wash up, the water in the cave, but I seriously doubt the temperature is bearable. But who knows, maybe Dawnguard members are secretly ice swimmers. Maybe they train in freezing water just so they can sneak up on Castle Volkihar without even needing boats. Next up, let's check out the Bards College, Skyrim's musical school located right in Solitude. And honestly, that totally makes sense. It's the biggest city in the game, so of course it's home to the arts. And yeah, colleges are usually found in big cities in real life too. The building itself looks pretty good from the outside. I especially like the fancy windows. Inside, you walk straight into a big open space with that classic Solitude style, stone walls, bright lighting, and some plants. On the right, there is a library, which makes sense. It's a college after all. There is plenty of space to learn. On the left, we've got 4 trainer bedrooms, and let me tell you, they're very comfortable. Like Blue Palace level comfy. 2 of them even have wash basins. The other 2 don't, but they've got way more personality. One of them is clearly the room of someone who loves learning technical stuff. There are so many books here. Definitely a passionate learner, especially since the library is just across the hall. Either these are harder to find books with more complex knowledge, or someone's just a book collector who likes to have their own copies. The other room is packed with instruments, so clearly that Bard is all about practice. And honestly, when it comes to music, that probably makes more sense. You can't learn to play the lute just by reading a book, right? Neither of these 2 rooms has a wash basin though. I guess if you're super passionate about something, washing up feels like a waste of time. Time you could spend learning or playing. Down in the basement, there's a big kitchen with a chef and a few tables to eat at. The food is probably great here and the whole space feels warm and welcoming. I feel like this would be the perfect spot for student performances. Just imagine singing your first song in front of your classmates while they're eating. Actually, I'd probably prefer doing it in a tavern full of strangers. Less intimidating. Connected to the kitchen is the chef's bedroom, nothing too special. There's also one shared student bedroom down here in the basement. Each bed is separated by wooden panels, so there is a bit of privacy, which is nice. But the room itself is pretty dark, with no windows and not exactly a place you'd want to hang around. It's more like go to sleep and leave. Upstairs, we've got 2 more important rooms. One is clearly meant for lectures, lots of books scattered around. The other is filled with instruments, so it's definitely the practice room. And hey, the school provides instruments, so you don't even have to buy your own. Nice. I really like that they've separated the theory and practice areas. It fits the whole vibe of a music school. There's also a small storage room up here, and that's pretty much it. The layout is simple and easy easy to navigate, but it has everything a college should have. Space to learn, space to sleep, a big cafeteria with an actual chef, and a library. If you're a student, it's decent. But if you're a trainer, you're living the good life with those private rooms. So yeah, I'd say the Bards College is a solid, well-designed space for students. It's not the most interesting faction headquarters in Skyrim, but it's definitely functional. And hey, it's a college, it's supposed to be simple. Now, let's talk about two more minor factions, the Imperials and the Stormcloaks. These are a bit different from the others because they don't really have faction headquarters where all the members hang out. Still, I wanted to take a closer look at Castle Dour and the Palace of the Kings since they're the main bases of operations for each side. Let's start with Castle Dour, which like the Bards College is located in solitude. On the outside, it's huge, separated from the rest of the city by a tall stone wall. The place definitely gives off serious power vibes. In the courtyard, there's a training area and you'll actually see guards using it, which is a nice touch. Once you step inside, you're immediately greeted by enchanting and alchemy tables, which feels a bit odd. Like, why are they placed right in the hallway? Anyway, the next room is the war planning chamber, and right in the center is a big map. It's functional, you can imagine commanders standing around it discussing strategy, but nothing really stands out visually. Although there is one thing, the windows above the tables. They let in some really nice light. From there you can head into one of the bedrooms. And this one's kind of weird. The bed is hidden behind shelves, giving it more privacy, especially if someone wants to use the wash basin. But it's definitely not a common layout in Skyrim. Upstairs, there's another bedroom with a more typical design. The bed is clearly visible, basically the centerpiece of the room, with a wash basin and a wardrobe corner nearby. Personally, I'd move the wash basin closer to the wardrobes, just more practical and private that way. From the entrance hall, you can go downstairs to find the guards' quarters. It's a large shared bedroom with 9 beds, and 2 of them are definitely placed suspiciously close. Looks like a couple of guards are really good friends. They've also got a cooking and eating area down there, which is actually pretty decent. And there is a dedicated space for storing armor and weapons, a nice detail that makes it feel more like an actual barracks. Castle Dour also includes a jail, but I'm not gonna go into detail here, since I already covered that in a separate video where I looked at all of Skyrim's prisons. From the courtyard, you can also enter the Emperor's Tower. It's another spacious building with the same elegant solitude style. The main hall, complete with a throne, really gives off an air of authority. Going left, take us into this big kitchen, and I totally love it. There are so many spots to put or hang food, and everything's so well organized. Just look at how neatly everything's arranged. And there are plenty of supplies too. They've even got an extra corner with barrels to store even more goods. What really caught my eye though is how many chef's hats are lying around. I mean, this is the Emperor's Tower after all. Probably some of the best chefs in all of Skyrim are cooking here. Upstairs, there's a classic solitude style bedroom, big bed, wash basin, and a little wardrobe corner. What caught my eye though was a coin purse placed way up high, like someone didn't want it stolen, but also made it so obvious you just have to check it out. That said, for the Emperor's personal space, there is surprisingly little gold inside. The last area here is the dining room. It looks nice, but I'd probably add a fireplace to make the space feel more interesting and welcoming. And that's Castle Dour. I didn't want to spend too much time on it because honestly, it just has that standard classy solitude vibe. It definitely fits the Imperials, clean, formal and powerful, but there aren't many surprising or unique details. Or maybe I just missed them. If you've spotted something interesting here that I didn't mention, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. And the last spot is the Palace of the Kings in Winterhold. It's actually a Jarl's residence, not a proper faction hangout. There is a room dedicated to war planning, plenty of bedrooms, including the Jarl's own, and a nice kitchen. You'll also find guards' quarters and a jail. It's a pretty classic stronghold setup, but I won't dive into too much detail since I already covered it in a video where I checked every Jarl's residence. One thing that did stand out to me though is the training area for the guards. Honestly, it's pretty underwhelming. I've seen way better training spots in other factions. I'd even say this is the worst training area out of all the joinable faction headquarters. And those are all the minor faction headquarters. The most interesting to me are definitely Volkihar's castle and Dawnguard fort. The vampire stronghold has some of the coolest details and a bunch of different rooms to explore. But the best place to live out of all of them is probably the Bards College. It's comfy and safe. Which minor faction headquarters do you like the most? Hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, thanks for watching.